I'm happy to welcome back tonight Dean Johnson, running coach. For those of you who were here for the panel discussion, you would have heard already a little bit of what he has to say, but I'm happy that he has the whole hour to himself this time because I know he has a lot of good information to share. So I'm going to pass it over to Dean.
Hi, I'm Dean. I'm a running coach, and usually Aaron asks to do a presentation just on some other aspects of running. So you're probably here, we call it running down PB, so personal best. So most of you have probably heard of the Boston Marathon, especially with all the issues that happened last year. And probably somewhere in your plan, you're probably thinking, I might want to go to Boston, right? And the reason you do it is because it's a big deal, okay? When you go there, you are, like most of us are just normal people, right? Nobody claps for us. Well, from mile 1 all the way through to mile 26, there's people lining the roads. They're clapping for you, they're high-fiving you, they're giving you food and ice and whatever. And as you get closer to Boston, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when you're done, for the next couple of days, you're either wearing, when I was there, it was 2012, it was the orange jacket. You see all these orange jackets all over the place. And then people will wear their medal for a couple of days after, and people in Boston, seriously, they will stop and say, how was your race? Like they're not just, oh, how was your race? No, they're actually interested. So standing in line to get into the ball game, and the security guard starts chatting with me, saying, oh, how was your race, and what did you like? And as you're walking up the street, I was hobbling up after I got off the train, hobbling up the street, and about 2 out of 3 people that passed me asked, congratulations, congratulations. So it's a big deal. So who's got Boston kind of on their mind? Yeah, it's doable. I think if I can do it, and most of the people that have done it, you just have to have a plan. So Desiree Davila, she's a female U.S. runner, went to the Olympics, and she says, everybody acts like it's a big deal, and it is. Charles Darwin, we're obviously, the born to run kind of theme, and why we want to chase things. Now, some of you, here's your list of qualifying times. You're probably going to have to run about a minute and a half faster than the posted time to get in, because they still take it on a rolling. So they allow people that are 20 minutes faster than their posted time to register week 1. Then it's 15 minutes, and then it's 10 and 5, so it rolls all down. So just because you've got a qualifying time doesn't necessarily mean you're actually going to get in that year. You have 18 months to qualify, and you can qualify 18 months before your birthday. So if you are 48 and a half, you can actually qualify for 50 as long as you're 50 on the race date. Any questions about?
How long can you, like if you qualify, let's say this year, you'll go to walk, you have
within 18 months.
Or within 18 months, you have to go to the race.
Yeah, so 18 months ahead of the next race day, that's when you have to qualify.
No, but I mean, and it's just for that year. So like,
yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, because you'll almost be too late to try and register for. Pretty much, you can only register, race and register 1 year at a time, just because of the cutoff times. I think you have to have your time in by. It's an April race. I think it's January or February is the cutoff date. So you have to have your times done by then to qualify. Okay, so first of all, you're all here. You probably started jogging, you had some speed gains, you started getting some time goals, and probably right off the bat, you're starting to see, if you just run twice a week, all of a sudden you're seeing huge gains right away, right? Sort of the half-life of training. As you start working harder, and then now you're going, well, okay, I've kind of done the program, but now I need to run a little bit faster. So I think I can give you some strategies, some plans to follow, and maybe I can answer some of your questions to help you kind of get to that next hurdle. Why am I here? Personal running coach. I study a lot about running. I really enjoy running, coaching. I'm currently studying for a functional movement degree, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, and the Lydiard coaching certification, which is, he's one of the fathers of distance running, a New Zealander guy, and most people either follow his plan or something else. So he kind of follows the Lydiard Canyon principles, which is just lots of running. I've experienced pretty much most of the progressions, and most of the injuries. So I've had IT band issues, runner's knee. I currently are dealing with Achilles issues. I a touch of plantar fasciitis, so I've kind of been around the block. How many in here, I guess you don't really have to tell us your personal, but how many of you have had some setbacks to running based on some kind of an injury, overuse? Okay. Even the young guys. Wow, that's crazy. So that's part of that's functional movement screening that I'm talking about, or I will be talking about just briefly. It's to try and prevent that from happening, or to try and catch you before you cause too many problems to yourself. I also follow the structured training plan, so I've used some Run Less, Run Faster. I'm now running more of a Lydiard system from Mill and Running. So I've kind of studied a number of them, and I pick and choose what seems to work for me. And my long-term running goal is to run long-term. So I want to keep running. I don't want to be one of those people that can't run. Brief overview, we're going to talk about your running chassis, kind of start from the hips down. We'll talk about your brain on speed, some speed work, some things to work on, some program methods, and some performance enhancements at the end. Not the kind you have to pay for. Okay, so the first part is just talking about the hips down. And so this is where 90% of the problems are. And I'm going to have all these slides available. I'll post them up on my website in a more of a PDF version. So, and I'll also post these slides here, or the audio as well. So take notes if you like. So the dynamic stability and muscle control. So that's when you're standing on one foot. So right now, and here's part of everybody's problem in North America, is you're all sitting. So how many of you sat today for probably more than 6 hours? 8 hours? Okay. In Lethbridge, you don't have to drive very far to get to where you work. People in Calgary, they probably sit anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes just to get to work, both ways, plus they get to work and then they get to sit down again. And what that does to you is it causes a bunch of problems. It stretches out the back end, and it also makes it quite weak, and then it shortens up the front side, so your hip flexors, which is not good for running. So the anterior tilt, where everything kind of tilts out, that's when you're going to start having some T-band issues, some hip flexor issues, pelvis and knee issues, and all that. So right now, just everybody's going to stand up. We did a little bit of this last time. So just stand on one leg, just one leg only, just standing there. One thing you want to think about is taking your big toe, don't scrunch it like this, but push it straight down. Okay? And if you're leaning back on your heel, you're kind of probably having a lot of balance issues, right? So you probably want to have a little more weight on the front side of the foot. So when you're thinking about running, if you're a heel striker, so if you're landing on your heel out front, how much stability do you have, right? Very little. Where is that stability coming from? Pretty much from the knee up. You're going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff. So that's when they're talking about the natural form of running. So I put that leg back down, and I'll go to the other leg. Okay, you're not like, and while you're there, so this is actually during your work day, people think you're weird because you're runners already, so if you do some other stuff, it really is nothing. So take your leg, lift it up, if you can balance, bring it up past parallel, and then just hang it there, above parallel. The reason you want to do that is one of the hip flexors, it doesn't fire until it's above parallel. So it doesn't get a lot of work all day, but it's one of the ones that's going to give you some issues. So just stand there for 30 seconds, maybe every hour. Okay, you're working on a balance. Yeah, every once in a while you just want to get up. So you can do this for 30 seconds or however you can hold it. So you're actually working on your stability on the one side and you're working hip flexor on the other. Talking at the same time. Okay, everybody there. Okay, so now if you're doing that probably 21,000 times for each leg, that's a marathon. Okay, so that's how much times you do it. Now we're going to go back to that other leg. Just lift it up. Okay, so we're standing on one leg, we're working the hip flexor. You want to get it up to, if you're wearing jeans, a little tough. Get it up past to the size of the goal and then just hang it there. So now you got this hip just hanging there. So now take your hip and raise it up and down. Yeah. Now most people, when you were actually standing there, you probably had your hip, I can't really see my shirt, but you could have been just sagging. So you're just using tension on the side, not muscle strength, but you're just kind of letting this hip swing down low. Okay, you push your feet back down. And now you sit back. So what that was doing is actually working the hip muscles as well, because a lot of people when they run, IT band issues are a bunch of problems with it. But one is you're letting that swinging hip swing low, okay? So it actually drops down, it swings through, and so you're actually stretching that, as opposed to your leg coming through with a level hip. So I find myself, I'm watching people as they run. So I'm running down the road, and it doesn't matter who it is, I'm checking out to see if their hips stay. So if your hips are going down and back and forth, it's probably not going to be a good thing for you. If you're only running 5 miles, not a big deal. Run 10, run 15, run 15 twice a week, you're going to start seeing more problems. Okay, so we did the leg standing. I didn't make you jump today. So that's where he said, if you do it 21,000 times, you have about 21,000 foot strikes on each side during a marathon. Okay, this is some new stuff from last year's sessions. The ability pyramid. So first of all, you're going to start off, the base of it is going to be your mobility. So you have to have a range of motion. Okay, your hips got to be able to move. If you can't lift your leg up even to parallel or to perpendicular, you're probably going to have a running issue. Okay, if you can't get about 30 degrees of flexation in your ankles and your knees, you're probably going to have some issues. So part of this new movement screening is making sure you have mobility before you start working on stability. So the first one is range of motion, so start there. Second one is going to be stability. So that's motor control. So think about, okay, so I've got the range of motion. Now I've got to be able to, my brain has to make sure I fire all the right muscles and use the right tendons, and all that happens so that you get the right motor control. So we're standing on one leg. So when you're doing that, all of those muscles around, those stability muscles, we're all firing like crazy, right? Not very effective. Do that for 10 minutes a day, for 10 days, 20 days, 50 days. All of a sudden, your brain's going to figure out, because the brain's kind of lazy, it says, I want to do the least amount of work possible in order to be able to have you standing. So right now, you know, my knee is probably trembling a little bit, all those little muscles are firing. After a while, you'll have that motor control. Bruce isn't here today, but sometimes Bruce will talk about, Bruce from Fit Physio, he'll talk about, in some people, part of their dysfunction is they have muscles that are just not firing at all. So it could be one of their quad muscles is just not working in their running stance. So they have to actually work, they have to go back to a very functional level to try and get that muscle to work. And most of us, it's probably our glutes, are probably not working very well because we sit too much. Okay, so once you have the mobility, you're stable, now you got to have left-right symmetries. So who's ever looked at the bottom of their running shoes and noticed that the wear pattern is slightly different? Okay, I noticed on mine, I normally hit right about here, wears out, but on one shoe, it's about ½ an inch above where the other one. So obviously my running gait is a little off, and when you're running 20, 30, 40 miles a week, that's going to start adding up and causing some issues. So that's where you have to get those left and right symmetries together. Then once you have all of that, then you can stick the fitness on top. So this is where the running comes in, all of those miles that you do. If you're doing that on a dysfunctional or unstable platform, all the people that put their hands up, that's probably why you have those issues. Any questions about that, or observations, or who's all guilty? Hi, my name's Dean. I've got some running issues. Okay.
But we don't want to stop in order to fix it, right? We want to,
that's right.
Can we fix it as we're continuing?
And that is the crutch of it, is that the act of running does not help develop those instability issues. So if you've got a bad stabilizer in your leg somewhere, whether it's the outer calf, shin, ankle, in the plantar, not the plantar fasciitis muscle, but in the muscles in the foot, if you've got an instability in there, the act of running, you're just using it. You're saying, just do what I tell you to do. I'm not going to actually work with you at all on this. I'm not going to, have you do some rehab work. I'm just going to run every day. That's why all of a sudden you will become injured, because your body, the brain says, you probably shouldn't be doing this. I'll give you some pain. So right now, how many of you have ever checked your own foot? So just take your foot up and just squeeze your Achilles tendon. Now, if any of you have any kind of pain in there at all, if you squeeze it, I'm not saying pinch it to hurt, but going, geez, that shouldn't be like that. Okay, the next place is, even in your calf, just dig your finger into your calf. Is there any spots that, are a little more sore than others? For me, I'm bow-legged, as you can tell, so obviously my outer calves work a little bit more just for my stability, and that's why I wear out the outsides of my shoes. So I probably can only get maybe 300 miles out of a pair of shoes, because all of a sudden my shoes are starting to go like this. And I can tell, I go buy a new pair of shoes, and all of a sudden, wow, this feels different. I put the old ones back on, and I'm going, man, these things are really canted. So that's why I tend to go through a lot more shoes. So the same thing, just like if you feel your bicep, right? Most of you probably don't have any issues in your bicep. Like it's all fine. Whereas if you, check your IT band, check your quad, check your hamstring. Like you can do it, just to find out. Now, normally my massage therapist, she'll find out because, usually you get that, when she finds those spots. But for me, I've got a tight IT band on one side and a tight hip on the other. And a lot of times where the pain is, that's not the problem. That's the compensation. Okay? So if I got an IT band issue on one side, I likely have a problem on the other side. So thinking that, well, I'll just work on where the pain is, yeah, you're working on, you might as well take pop pills for it, because that's not really where the problem lies. And that's where professionals like physiotherapists, the massage therapist, your doctor, they can really be helpful in you trying to figure out where the problem is. Tara's here, sorry. Yeah. So Tara's a physical therapist, correct? Where do you work at?
I'm at Elements Therapy and Acupuncture on their desk.
Okay. So who is seeing a physiotherapist? You don't have to say it's not a medical issue, but you need to have a team. There's a slide at the very end here. You need to, you probably, runners avoid doctors like forever, so we don't go see our doctor, but you need to have your doctor on side, physiotherapist, a massage therapist, possibly a chiropractor, a nutritionist like Erin if you've got...
Well, not me, my sister-in-law.
Oh, it's your sister-in-law? Okay. Through Body Fuel?
Yeah.
Okay, Body Fuel
Yeah,
Nutrition?
we just have the same name.
Oh, really?
First and last, yeah.
Okay, so anyways, Erin's sister-in-law is a nutritionist. So if you have those kinds of concerns or things that are working well for you, talk to some of the professionals. Most of your health plans cover that, so if you're already paying for it, get out there and use it. So we just talked about the whole ability pyramid, where that's where most of the problems happen. So I'm a coach, and I'm talking about this stuff because this is the stuff I'm coaching around on a daily basis. Most of my athletes have some kind of issue. A good chunk of them just are getting over the cold. How many people have the nasty cold? I stayed away from it for whatever reason. But I've had athletes that are probably off for a good 2 weeks, and so they're having to, 2 weeks nothing, and now they're getting back to running. So most of them are really happy because they survived the 18-mile on the last weekend. So things are back. Any questions about that ability stuff? Probably didn't know you were going to be talking about that here today, but I'm seeing that as from the coaching side. I haven't coached around it, so Bruce and I are going to be talking later about putting together another presentation, probably in late May or sometime in June, about the whole, after you've done your marathon and you never want to run again. Oh, look, another race! So it's really short. But it'll probably be in June-ish or late May. We'll be talking about some options for if you want to take a look at your functional ability. Bruce also has. Anybody done the 3D gait analysis? Another fantastic tool. We actually saw Tara. Was it last year or the year before? We actually watched you do it. Yeah, the Fit Physio. She was the subject of the guinea pig that we made on there for everybody who was to watch. So anyway, we're talking about all that mobility issue. So it's the alignment and coordination. So we're efficient at being inefficient. So it goes back to the saber-toothed tiger days where we had to run to live. And so if we twisted our ankle running from the tiger, well, the brain figures out, well, I can just have them limp, and I can still keep them moving because the brain needs the body to survive, right? So it's going to make things happen. You don't want to be doing that on a long-term basis. When you see people running, how many people, when you're running on the weekend, you notice the person in front of you, their one arm swings out a bit, or they got the one foot that maybe comes out sideways and the other one comes out square. You see those kinds of things. And those are compensations, and they've worked around it. But as they want to get faster and start putting more miles on, that's where they're going to run into problems. So if you're, we'll call it recreational running, we're just going out twice a week, likely those inefficiencies aren't going to cause you a problem. But as you add more miles, you're going to have more and more problems. So they talk about high forces on unstable levers. So things that are not stable, you're going to force them to run faster, longer, and harder. Talks about the biomechanics. Really, to be a better runner, you need to be a better athlete. So just don't think, well, I'll just go run. Well, you're not. You probably will be seeing a doctor, physiotherapist, massage therapist, might be on pills. You know, something's going to happen to you. So just work on trying to be a better athlete. So once you have that mobility and stability, now we start talking about strength. We talk about, think about the legs as a large spring. So as you do all those miles, the brain figures out, well, I'm going to do as little work as possible in order to get you from point A to point B. So the less work you do, the longer you can go, the less fuel you use. So things like speed work and hill work, there's a high physiological fatigue, meaning you are bagged at the end of those, right? So you'll do 400-meter repeats, or you run up the hill for 3 minutes and you do that 6 times, you're completely wiped out. Whereas weightlifting, there's minimal fatigue. So you can go bang off a set of squats, you are not gasping for air, right? You take about a 2-minute break and you can do it again. So this is where you may want to incorporate some strength training, but be smart about it. So I've got a long run tomorrow, I probably shouldn't work on legs today. So you always want to do weight strength work on your legs, either a day ahead, like meaning you've got a day break in between, or do it after your run. So just be smart about when you throw those in. They talk about the endurance part here. Oops, back up. Okay, so they said power and strength, you can do those different kinds of sets. But they said for endurance, doing small number of sets with high reps, it's really a waste of time for runners because you're already doing that while you're running. So if you're going to do any weight work on the legs, and it's about every other week, there's an article that comes out of how beneficial, like we're talking high weight, low reps, and explosive power movements. Now, should you just go out there and do that right now? Well, if you want to get injured, yes, you do. But you really want to start integrating that, work with a weightlifting coach, and you can actually start integrating those. Especially if you're saying, well, I can only run 20 miles a week, I just can't. So I'm going to get into the weight room 1 day a week instead. Make sure you're doing it properly. Also with that, the spring, think about a person running at 7.2 miles an hour. I think it's about an 8-minute mile. Your foot's on the ground for just under a quarter of a second. So this is where the plyometrics come in, and I know Sean was talking about plyometrics last year and explosive power in running. So as you want to get faster, well, you're going to be running at that 7 miles per hour, 8-minute mile, or even faster to get to your Boston qualifying time. This is where, after you've got the mobility and stability, you've got some strength, now you're going to go into explosive power. So I caution everybody about jumping into that. I think I've tried it myself. I think I worked up about 3 or 4 weeks of just doing weight work on my legs, like squats and single leg squats. And then I tried one set of plyometrics, and it was just jumping off of a chair. So you jump off the chair, you hit the ground, and then you just do another jump after. I was in pain. Like I think you can maybe only do it about once a week. So just be very careful before you even talk about plyometrics. The same thing may happen. I'm not sure. I haven't done the TRX stuff. Who's done TRX? Do you find it helpful, hurtful? Hurtful. Yeah. Some of those movements, and again, you have to be under control. So if you don't have the mobility and stability, it can be kind of dangerous. So just be careful of it, please. This just talks about muscle stiffness. We're going to talk about this. There's some notes in the bottom of these slides. So when you download them, all the sort of information will be in that stuff that I talked about. There's actually more information when I talk about. Okay, so we talk about the physical stress on the body, and so you go from decay to atrophy, where you're losing things, and then you get to a point where you're maintaining just your musculature and strength. Then you want to get into weight gains, and then what's that fine line between making gains and then injury, right? So I talked about explosive power doing plyometrics. Every person here is different. So if you ask me a question, I will always start a little more cautious. You say, hey Dean, I want to start on some weight training. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, go through those plyometrics, those are great for runners. I'll say, well, what weight training have you done? You're working with a professional, like a personal trainer. Have you done training on yourself before? So I always want to work from the bottom up and not get to injury, because once you get to injury, it's hard to get back. Keeps tar in business. That's because a lot of people are, getting back from injury is terrible. So really be cautious and know kind of where that dividing line is. Some of my athletes I work with, I think they get frustrated with me because I don't push them hard enough in cases. So I always want to find out from them that they have a really good feedback system so that they know that what's going to happen before they are injured. So there's something that tells you, and everybody that has an injury probably goes back on, oh yeah, I remember for about 3 weeks before that Achilles tendon issue or that runner's knee, it was kind of sort of bothering me, but I thought if I just, maybe took a day off and I just ran harder, it would go away. So I work with my athletes to make sure that, they know what the triggers are, and so that they stop before that happens. And even for myself, I'm being more aware of my running so that I know when my hip flexor is going to start acting up, and I know when I have to stop running. I might still be 1.5 miles from home, but I'm still going to just stop running and I'm going to walk the rest of the way, because I know if I do that, then I get to run in about 2 or 3 days. If I try and run through it, then I probably get to have a week off and I get to miss going on the weekend. So just be very careful on yourself, knowing where your stress point is. This is the summary of all of that mechanical stuff. So think about the big spring and the small spring. So big spring means you're really strong, or you're kind of weak. On the other side of the matrix, you've got low stability and high stability. So when you start looking at the matrix together, you can see where your problems are going to start happening. So the first one, if you have low stability and small spring, you're weak, you're inefficient, you're kind of at a fairly high risk of injury. Okay? So this is people just starting out running. Well, what happens is all of a sudden they've got more muscle, like they've built up some fitness, but they still have low stability. They haven't done any work on, they can't do a one-legged stand for more than 15 seconds. Those people, they're going to have some good performance, but their injury is going to happen. We just don't know when. Okay, so let's work on the other side, where you have small spring but high stability. So you're really functional, good mobility, but you're just not very fit just yet. Your performance isn't going to be great, but you have almost zero chance of injury unless you literally slip and fall. But you're not going to probably have any overuse injuries. And then where you want to get into maximum performance is where you've got good fitness, you're strong, and you have high stability. So that is the place where you want to be. So just think about that when you're running, or when you're sitting on the couch tonight watching whatever you watch at 9 o'clock at night, that you could actually be lying on the floor doing a few exercises that are going to help you run longer and work on your stability. They're not hard. Okay, so talk about the physical part, getting into the brain. So I've done some research and I've incorporated some of the chi running. Anybody familiar with chi running, the pose method, that kind of stuff? It's very Asian, very yoga, very kind of Eastern culture. So it's really keeping it about mindful running. So not running out there, you got your music plugged in, you're cranked up, and you were just lost, right? That's not to be derogatory, but we'll call it mindless running, where you're completely tuned out of what's going on with your body. You could be running like Phoebe, on Friends kind of thing, and you don't care, and that's okay. But if you're not really sort of listening to your body and saying, am I starting to have that pain, or geez, my one foot really doesn't do this, it's slapping and the other one's kind of soft. So it's really focusing on what's going on there. The same thing with your training. Every one of your workouts should have a goal. If you don't know what the goal is, I'm not sure if you should go out. Don't call it a workout, you're going out to socialize, and that's okay. But you really need to know what your goal for each workout is. So you're mindful of what's going on with your form, your pace, and your feel. So as you're running out there, my goal with my athletes is at some point they don't need me. So once I have them to that point, they may still want me to help them coach. But they're in tune with their body, they know when they're going to have problems, they know when they need rest, and they know when they can really bang out a heck of a workout. Second part of the brain, is it injury or discomfort? Okay? Is it acute pain, a sharp stabbing pain in your quad or your hamstring? Or does everything just hurt? Like, I'm uncomfortable. So it's kind of the brain telling you that, you know, I think you're running too hard. I'm just going to give you some general discomfort and just see if you can run through it. So, who does the moonlight? Okay, I currently hate 10K races because it's just kind of pain from start to end, right? There's no kind of, like a marathon, you can be happy for like 12 miles, right? You're just chatting away because that's what you should be doing. Whereas in a 10K, you kind of go out the gate, maybe the first 2K you should be taking it easy, but then it's just, you go into the pain cave, right? How fast do you want to run is how much do you want to really give up. So understanding that, so when you're running along, am I just uncomfortable or do I actually have a problem? Is my calf cramped up because of some weird thing? Do I need to stop? So that's something you need to kind of figure out. And I tell people every once in a while run naked, meaning no music or no chat, meaning that just go run by yourself. So that you don't have somebody else, you don't have to make conversation, you're not thinking about, you're not running their pace. You can just zone in on the pace that you need to run. So just every once in a while, even if it's once a week or once a month, just please go up and do it. Any question on all that? So we talked about sort of the mechanics, the chassis, we talked about the brain, and things you need to think about while running. Bored? Weird? Exciting? Okay. I'll talk about some training programs just briefly. I'll just breeze through them. There's a lot more detail in the slides and if you have questions. Really, most of the plans are very similar. They just have a few different takes. Now, when I work with an athlete, I more or less explain the basis or the belief of the plan. And I say, do you believe this? Like, does this work for you? Because if they do not believe that the plan is going to work for them, the plan will not work for them. I got a couple of people that they've been having injuries, just nagging injuries. Usually it's a hamstring injury. And so some of the research that I was looking at, one of these physiotherapists, he says, yeah, this is kind of the last resort for people before surgery is, he calls it metabolic training. And what he does is he's got a formula, and he keeps you completely aerobic in your workouts, meaning that you do not go anaerobic at all. So you do not, your body does not start pushing anti-inflammatories into your system, or inflammatory. It doesn't inflame anything. So I have to have the work, I think it's the number is 180 beats per minute, subtract, and then you get down to about somewhere between 130 and 140 beats per minute, depending on their age. That is the maximum their heart rate can be for any of their running workouts. And they hate me because they have to run so slow. I said, you might hate me now, but if you can run through a whole season, a whole training session or season without that hamstring acting up, I guarantee you will be at the start line. Okay? You can get to the start line. What will happen is that your aerobic system will be so well tuned that you'll be able to run faster and faster at the same heart rate. And eventually, once it's probably a form issue, once that hamstring issue has gone away, then you can start adding in some speed work on a very slow basis. So, like I said, I've talked to two of my athletes. I said, okay, here's the basis of it. Do you believe this? Does this make sense to you? They go, yes, okay, then we'll do it. But if they don't, then we'll work on something else. The Run Less, Run Faster plan, the books, I think most of these books, or some of these books are at the store. Run Less, Run Faster, I've used that for about 5 years. I found that as I kind of started to peak up, I found that the training paces were too fast for me. I could not hold the speed workouts and the tempo workouts. I could do the long runs, that wasn't an issue, but I was really struggling with them, and so I've gone to a similar program, but it's a bit different. The brain training for runners, this guy's very interesting because every one of your workouts, he has you thinking about something, and it's about, keep floppy feet. These floppy feet. What he means is don't fire your calves. Your calves are there for stability. You shouldn't be using your calves for trying to gain speed because it's a small muscle. Use those big muscles in your quads and your hamstrings and your butt. So it's another interesting concept. The Hamptons Marathon Method, I know a couple of girls that are using this. They're running 5 or 6 days a week, but it's a lot less volume every day. So for them and their lifestyle, it works great. So I think their longest run is 16 miles. But it's the last 16 they're running because the day before they already put in 8 or 10 miles. So it's more of a smaller amount every day. So depending on what you have for available time, what kind of, what things work for you, that's usually the method that I'll work with. The You Only Faster is Greg McMillan running. I went to his running camp last year. Going back again this year to a Lydiard certification. So he's taking all of his coaches, and so his sessions are very similar to the Run Less, Run Faster. It's just that there's a lot less speed work involved, a lot more distance training. The Chi Running, Danny Dreyer, his is quite cool if you love yoga and kind of the whole Asian philosophy. He's got a marathon training plan to get you to the finish. Or you can just get a coach and they'll kind of figure that stuff out for you. Questions about the training plans. I'm not going to get into any details of the training plans because that would take a half an hour, but in the slides you'll see some just sort of snippets saying, here's the base of the plan, here's what you're going to be doing in that plan, and then if you really like it, get one of the books, and you can read through the book, and it'll give you all the bases behind it. Questions about training plans? Okay, Frank Shorter, 72 Olympic gold medalist. He won the marathon. 4 days before that, he came in 5th in the 10,000 meters at the Munich Olympics. He's got an interesting story. Anybody know who Frank Shorter is? He was actually in Lethbridge here for the Moonlight Run as the guest speaker just before I started running, so like in 2004 or something. So just before my time. Anyways, he said, you can buy my book about running, he says, or just do a weekly long run of 20 miles and do 2 days of speed intervals. He said, you'll just get faster doing that. But if you look at that, you look at all the programs, generally there's about 3 hard days in there. 1 long run, a speed work session, and some kind of tempo or interval, and then they'll mix in some other long runs and things like that. But normally, even the elites don't go hard more than 3 to 4 days a week. Their bodies just can't handle it. All right, here's an interesting slide. Just pick this one out. Jack Daniels. Who named a kid Jack Daniels, right? He's actually a doctor, Jack Daniels. He's one of the elite running coaches. So what he talks about here is the diminishing returns of training. And so where do you want to be? So starting here, this is getting off your cuff, okay? Your potential achieved is 0. So let's talk about some easy workouts. You're going to just run easy. You're going to maybe run 20 miles a week, okay? You're going to do a long run of maybe 8 or 10 miles, and you're going to go, even if you just follow the runner's soul plan, where you run Wednesday, you run Sunday. 2 days a week, you run easy, you are probably going to hit about 50% of your potential. Just doing that on a consistent basis over 3 to 4 months. So, pretty good return. This red line here is your sort of propensity, the chances that you're going to become injured. And so you kind of see where the half-life of training comes in. So if you go up to a moderate training, moderate might be, you're going to now run 25 to 30 miles a week. You're going to do at least 1 speed session in there and another run during the week. So at least 3 to 4 days of running a week. Now you can see here, moderate, you're probably going to get another 25. So you can get up to close to 70% of your potential if you just do that a little bit extra. Okay? And your risk of injury is still quite low. So I would say that maybe a third of our marathon club is in that. Then you get up here to where you are going to start working out hard. You're going to do 3 hard workouts a week and probably add in some other work as well. You're going to be doing 35 miles, 45 miles a week. You start seeing that your chances of injury getting higher, but your gains went from like 75 to maybe 83. So, the bang for the buck isn't quite there. So for most runners, and then you start seeing, if you just start doing the Glenn Vandenboel kind of stuff where he runs 22 miles on Saturday and he goes out and does a 10-mile run on Sunday, he's great. Who knows Glenn? You seen Glenn run? I've seen Glenn. But Glenn, no, yeah, I know. But he is very biomechanically efficient. Like you see him run, he doesn't have any weird stuff. He doesn't have bent legs. He doesn't have his arms. Everything is very efficient. That's why he can run probably 60 miles, 70 miles a week. Okay, but there is some risk for Glenn here that he's getting into this harder to extreme where he's probably working to the 60, 70 miles a week. You can see he's going to see right now he may be capped out. I think his best marathon time is about 2:04. Or sorry, 2:04. Sorry, 2:04. World record levels. But 3:04. He wants to get under that 3 hours, and so he's doing Calgary. No, sorry, he's doing Boston in 2 weeks. So he's going to try and bang out a personal best there. So if conditions are right, it might just work out for him. But he puts in a crap load of effort and time, and he's working up here right now, putting in a lot of extra effort for small gains. So you see where you kind of fit. This area here is probably a good spot to be in. Okay, chances of injury are low. You're probably still having fun. Okay, it's not work every day. We all work for a living, so having to work on your running is not that much fun. Questions about that? Concerns? Kind of see the concept of where that fits in. So program basics. Generally, a good quality program, you have 2 or 3 quality workouts a week. So you get a long run and then some kind of faster run. Usually, think of it this way. If you have a marathon goal pace, say you want to run a 9-minute mile in your marathon, somewhere in your training, your long runs are going to be probably somewhere between 30 to 90 seconds slower per minute. But somewhere during the week, you need to be running at marathon pace and or a little bit faster, because magic's not going to happen on race day if you're running a 10-minute mile every day, but you're just expecting on race day you're going to run in 9 minutes. So you need to be in that. All of these, every workout you do should probably have a purpose. Probably you need to have a purpose of why you're out there doing it. And then, are you doing the right amount of intensity? Most runners run too easy on hard days and too hard on easy days. Okay, so they just kind of went, they're kind of in the middle as opposed to being a little more extreme. So when you're supposed to run easy, your long run, it's not a race. You're working on your base aerobic, you're working on getting time on your legs. But that speed workout on, say, the tempo, a good example was last Wednesday, we were at Front Row Pub, and we had to run down the hill, and then we had to run all the way up the hill. What a great workout. It was kind of 2 hill workouts, because you had to do the bottom part, and then walk up the hump, go back down again, and then you got to run it up again. So those are 2 hard workouts, and if you really put an effort in, you were uncomfortable, right? You were working hard. And so that's the kind of stuff that you want to be doing. And then some people call it cross-training. I call it complementary training, where you're doing some things to help you with either those stability issues, or maybe just getting on a bike. And because a bike is nice because your form is kind of perfect, you can't really mess up your form on a bike, so you're actually working the muscles, probably more of a symmetrical work as opposed to asymmetrical where you can kind of do whatever you want on squats or whatever else. Your speed intervals, probably about 45 minutes a week. Run faster, you obviously need to train faster. So things like somewhere between a quarter mile and about a 2 kilometer, maybe up to 2 miles for these repeats. And it's going to be faster than your 5K pace. So I haven't done a 5K in a while. I just kind of know what kind of pace I can run at those faster speeds, or at those shorter distances, I mean. How many people are doing some speed work right now? Just a little bit. How many would like to do some speed work? Okay. That's kind of where you probably want to get some help, or you can just go out there and just run faster. You're not probably going to hurt yourself. The good thing about speed work is your form improves the faster you go. To a point. Obviously, if you go past, you start flailing around. But usually, you have to be very efficient in order to run fast. So those things that you can do, you can get away with running slow. Well, a lot of those things go away because you pretty much have to run on a mid-foot stride when you're running fast. Okay, you can't heel strike. You can't probably overstride because you're going to be probably falling down. So the good thing about speed work is that I can try and get my athletes to run at I need to run at a gallop, not a trot, but a gallop. So I get them to make sure that the heels are coming up, and people like Sherry keep hearing that in their mind, because I'll be running with them and I'll say heels up, heels up, heels up, because I want to see their heels pretty much hit parallel. Okay, I want to see them parallel with the ground. So they can't do the shuffle, but I want to see that heel come up, bring forward, come down. So I get them working on that form running while they're actually getting a hard workout. Speed intervals, and then there's the longer intervals like tempo runs. I personally hate a long tempo run. I struggle trying to do like a 6-mile tempo run. I have to break it up into 2-mile chunks. And just in my brain, I have a barrier, and so that's something I work around with my athletes as well. Some of them just say, Dean, I hate doing short sprint work. That's okay, we don't have to do short sprint work. I know the physiological or the training benefit that we're looking for there, let's do it in a different way. So that's where some of the modifications to the training plan, so you can get them right out of the book, and if it works for you, go for it. But if not, it's how do I substitute that to try and get the same kind of effect, because I need to work those muscular, more of your strength of your running, because what happens is you've got your endurance muscles that they don't use a lot of energy, they're just very efficient. But after 3/4 of your marathon, you've wiped them out. And all you got left is your fast twitch fibers, all those sprinting muscles. And if you haven't done any speed work in your training, well, those are the people you're going to see that are literally almost, they've got the wobbly legs, right, and they're hunched over because they've only done long running. They have not done any training with their those sprinting muscles. And so that's why you do some of that sprint work, because then you can call on those things when something really happens. It's like having like a brother-in-law. It's kind of annoying. He's got a truck, right? And every once in a while, you gotta give him a call. You gotta put up with whatever his annoying jokes are. You gotta, serve him beer. But you need to use that truck every once in a while. Same thing in your body, where you need to work those sprinting muscles if you want to get faster. And those are the people that are usually walking at the end, right? They've completely exhausted their endurance, their slow twitch fiber muscles, and they still have it left. So you don't want to be that guy or that girl. So you break those up.
Sorry. Can you go back to that last slide for a second?
Yeah.
Because at the top you got 6 to 11 miles, so that's over 10K, between 5K and 10K race pace. So in my tempo runs, I'm supposed to be running faster than my 10K race pace.
Well, in some of them. So you're going to be, depending on the distance, like 11 miles is kind of the outside for a tempo run. I personally wouldn't attempt a 10 or 11 mile, but in some of the training programs, so this is kind of a summary of those training programs. And that's why some of them I like more than others, because if it told me to go out and do a 10-mile tempo run, what would end up happening is I'd probably run 10 miles, but I wouldn't be running at a tempo pace. It'd be a little faster than my long run pace. So I'm not getting that training effect that the program is trying to deliver to me. So I'm saying, for me, that program is not going to work. I would probably go do, say, the 10 miles, but I'd break it up into 2-mile chunks. And so I'd have to run slightly faster, but as far as my body's concerned, I've really put that effort in at that speed. So I've got my 10 miles of tempo work in. It just took me a little longer because I took a 3-minute break in between each one. So I said, these ones here, like I said, I'm starting to hate the 10K race because it's just not comfortable, and whether I just can't handle it anymore. But most of your tempo runs are going to be in that faster 5 to 10K pace range. So that's why I said, if you've got a program that says you got 3 11-mile tempo runs to do, I might be looking for a different program. But that's generally where you're going to be. So it's kind of running in that pace there. That kind of sort of answer that? Go ahead, then, Renee.
Chris is asking probably a good question here. So speed work is short, fast distance, and tempo is longer, fast distance?
I think your speed work is going to be short. Like you're going to be running at probably faster than your 5K pace. So you're going to be running on the edge. If it's a short, like 400-meter repeats, those things are almost all out, right? You're going to finish those somewhere between, either side of 2 minutes. Okay, about 1.5 to 2.5 minutes. That's the effort for about a 400-meter and you should have probably a fairly short break in between. You're going to bang out another one. You can probably bang out 8 to a dozen of those. Whereas once you get the longer distances, those are the ones that are really beneficial for those 10K half marathon distances. You're working on that ability to run at that really uncomfortable level, and you're learning to clear that lactic acid while you're running, the stuff that really makes you feel like crap. So that's the stuff that, I think, as people get older and don't want to hurt as much, those are not the fun races, right? You either want to do something short, or you want to get into the marathon, or even longer ultra distances where it's aerobic running 95% of the time.
So Dean, in reference to that, if you're training and you're doing the speed work, what would your pace per mile or kilometer be?
Sorry, doing
speed work.
So a speed work session, if I'm doing 800-meter repeats, I'm probably doing those at 6-minute mile, 6.5-minute mile.
Okay, and if you were doing the interval?
The intervals, I'd probably getting closer to 6.5 to 7-minute mile. So my hope is my 7-minute mile is about my half marathon pace, about there.
So you're talking 30 seconds difference.
Yeah. So the long tempo runs are probably being run more at your half marathon pace. The shorter ones are going to be run, obviously, if you're running 6 miles, going to be kind of hard to run that at a 10K pace because that is your 10K best time. So you might do it in intervals, so that 6 miles you might be doing it in 1 or 2 mile interval sessions, and you're probably not going to be able to hit that kind of pace. But it's going longer, anywhere from, I think the number is, stay on this one, somewhere between 4 and 15 minutes of effort, 4 minutes to about 20 minutes of effort on a lot of those tempo runs. But again, it's what you can handle and what you like doing, because every once in a while you can have a workout that you just kind of hate, maybe once every 2 weeks. And so when I'm working with my athletes, I want to make sure I show them the schedule. Okay, here's all the workouts. Look through that thing and say, is there some workouts in there that you just are not looking forward to? And having one of those every couple of weeks is okay. You gear up for it, right? And this is an effort, and you're going to have to make sure that you're prepped for it, and it's going to be a hard day, but when you get to the end of that, you bang that one out, that's going to give you a level of confidence, right? But I don't want to break them, meaning that if they go into that workout going, I can't run 6 miles. If you say you can't run 6 miles, I guarantee you won't run 6 miles. So I'll say, well, how do you want to, should we break it up into 3 2-mile segments? Can you do that? Oh yeah, I don't mind running 2 miles, I can hold that. Okay, so we'll do the same we'll get the same training effect, we'll just do it a different way. But I don't want to have 2 of those in 1 week. That's going to be a really tough, and so all of a sudden you're going to start hating running, which is not, you need to love it. I think one of my best years my favorite year of running, where I think I nailed every workout on my 16-week plan. It was just a great year, right? It's just whatever, you know. Injuries that's for those other people. It's kind of the year that I think my Achilles problem started acting, just started coming. And that's the year that I qualified for Boston. Had a great training, great race, had a perfect day. It was like, started off at like 7 degrees Celsius, finished at like 12. It was like just everything star lined up. I think I PB'd, I think about 3 minutes faster than I thought my best day was going to be like a 3:25, and I got like a 3:21 going. Just everything lined up. And so that's what I kind of want my athletes to be able to do. And you're going to have some setbacks, like everybody had a cold a little while ago. You're going to have some nagging injuries, but we want to make sure that we can weather those storms and still get you to the start line and then get you to the finish line. Okay, so it's a fluid system. You can't just follow a plan and say, well, if I just bang out everyone on the workouts, I'm going to have a PR that day. Okay. Wintertime, treadmill. If you have a treadmill in your basement, make it an inviting place to be. So I've got a laptop with a TV thing plugged into it. I can watch DVDs. I can watch TED Talks. I can do anything on there. So unfortunately, the bad part about a treadmill, and I pretty much all winter I do my speed work, my tempo runs on a treadmill, just because I find it hard to run faster outside, and usually there's snow and other crap going on out there. So I use it. I just get it done. The only problem with that is, the good thing is that you can stay on pace, right? You set that thing to a 6-minute mile and you just go, right? You just try and keep up to it. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't give you that feedback where you're on the track, or you're out on the road, where you get the feeling of, okay, I know what an 8-minute mile feels like now. I know what that pulls like. I can get that feeling. Whereas on the treadmill, you don't quite get that. So it's good in one way, kind of bad in the other. But I said in the wintertime, like especially this winter, it was so terrible out there. How many people missed runs because of the weather? Or the run, you did not actually achieve your objective because it was too slippery, too snowy, too whatever. And even those things, I have to work with my athletes. I'll say, I know you've got a 15-mile run plan today. How long is that supposed to take you based on your pace you're supposed to run? And say, well, it's going to be 2.5 hours. Okay, I want you to run for 2.5 hours at that same effort level. So they might only get 12 miles in that day because of the conditions, the snow, the whatever. But I want you at that effort level, but I'm going to go for the same amount of time. So that's sort of some of the things that we have to modify. The long run here. The one thing about the long run is this sweet spot. And some of the programs I've been looking at, they max it out at 2.5 hours because that's where you get diminishing returns after that point. So you can go, so if somebody says, oh, you need to go do a 4-hour long run, I'm thinking that the chance of you either being completely deflated at the end of it or hurt or something like that is quite likely. So I would probably encourage people 2.5 hours of running. Now if you're doing walk breaks every 10 minutes, don't count that walk break time. So maybe it's going to be a 3-hour day for you, but it's going to be 2.5 hours of running. So give that some thought on your long runs. And the other part too is if you're not sure about your long run, so an example is this last weekend, 18 miles. I told a couple of my athletes, I said, if you're not feeling great, I said, don't go down the hill into the river valley. Skip it. Skip that extra probably 1.5 miles. And I said, if you just skip that, you run on through, you come back around, and you're at 16.5 miles and you get back to the store. You want to go do a lap around the lake and finish off your 18 miles, you go ahead. But I just want to make sure that you didn't, crater at 15 miles and now you got a 3-mile walk home, right? So those are the kind of things that you want to be a little smarter about. So even on some of the really long, who's on the marathon plan here? Okay, we got some big runs coming up. I don't know when the 20-milers coming up, but think about that one. In some cases, depending on where you're going to race, I don't go to the west side. Like I will not run there. But if my race doesn't have a big hill in it, I want to focus on my pace and my time. And so I might do a lap up to north side Walmart twice. I'll come back to the store, refuel after an hour and a half. And so just because the group is running there doesn't mean you have to run with the group. So, be smart about what you do so that you're setting yourself up for success as opposed to, geez, I sure hope I can make it back. It's going to be a long day. So yeah, just think about that 2.5 to 3 hours max. Any questions about that for long run? Okay, just trying to get you ready for endurance. Once you start to see or you start to feel that your form is breaking down, that's probably a good time to stop, because that is when you're going to compensate, you're going to create some other issues, which might give you another week off of running. So just, walking back isn't the worst thing in the world. Take your cell phone with you. It's whatever, 6 ounces of weight you can carry with you, and you can, phone somebody from home to come pick you up wherever you're at. Could be on the west side, could happen. Yes?
What do you think, like, for people that are running ultras, what kind of training, running times are you suggesting?
Running for an ultra, normally people are not going for speed, so it's time on their feet. And so those, if you're doing the 50K, you're probably going to max out at about a 4 to 5 hour run. And you might cover 20 to 25 miles, depending on how many hills and whatnot. But just like marathon training, you want to get time on your feet. The same thing with ultra. You just want to have more time because you're going to run less, but you're actually going to be working some different muscular systems because you're going up big hills and down big hills. Whereas most marathons, we're looking for, I'll show you what kind of marathons we're looking for running here. But yeah, probably 4 to 5 hours is what we're going to max out for 50K. If you're doing 100K, you might want to do 4 to 5 hours one day, and then you double it up, you go out again the next day and do probably 3 to 4 hours. So over 2 days, and usually within 24 hours, your body doesn't really know there's a break in there, okay? So even some people that have to do a long run, say a 20-miler, and they know they just can't fit it in, if you can do 12 miles on Friday night and you can get up and do the other 8 miles on Saturday morning, your body, it's not the best scenario, but it's better than not doing the 20 miles altogether. So, life happens and you have to break things up. So your feet still know, when you get up the next morning, your legs are going, yeah, we just ran. They can't tell time, but they know that I ran just recently and I'm not recovered yet. Because it takes, 48 hours to get a fairly decent amount of recovery before you start banging out another hard workout. Complementary training, we briefly talked about that. Let's skip through these. Marathon plans. Cheat running dude. Oh yeah, you have to forget about your last marathon before you plan another because you don't want to know what's coming. Brief macro plan. Yep. So in summertime, this is, thinking you're lining up for a spring marathon. In the summer, go have fun. Go run trails, do some long distance, get that aerobic base, right? Go out there. You should be able to talk during all those runs. So get that stuff in. You'll get some strength work. Every once in a while, take a hill. I'm going to charge that hill. Okay? I'm just going to hunker down and get up that hill. I'll be breathing hard at the top, and then I'm just going to cruise along to the next hill. In the fall, you might want to line up a 10K race, probably like cause, so that you're kind of working on some speed work. So you've got that aerobic base over the summer, get some speed going into the fall. After that, jump into a half marathon sometime in the winter before, so maybe in that December, January time frame. And what's nice about these is these are kind of like markers going, okay, that's my half marathon time, and I'm going to base my next session's workouts off of those times. So usually when I'm working with an athlete, I'll say, what was your most recent race? And we're going to use that to set up your times. So your tempo runs are going to be in this range, your long runs are going to be in this range, based on that's your fitness for what you just recently did. Take about a 2-week break after a half marathon if you banged out a tough workout or a tough race. And then look at about 4 weeks to prepare. Say if you're going to do a Boston qualifier plan, give yourself some prep work. So if you're lacking in the speed area, then work on some speed work during that period. If you're lacking in the tempo area, like I usually am, I use some sustained runs during that. I do those 2-mile repeats and whatnot. Spring, you probably want to, that's where you work on your full marathon plan. Then give yourself about 4 weeks off after that. Get to a point where you just can't wait to go running again, as opposed to, okay, I finished my marathon, I'm going to start plan, I got a 10K I'm going to run in 5 or 6 weeks. Just make sure you don't get any burnout into there. It's the one where I guess if you think you can do it, you can't. He's right. Okay, the last little piece here. The lying, cheating, and stealing. The lying down part, because you're working that much harder, you need to get extra sleep. Do what you have to do to get the sleep. I got some people, actually a good friend of mine, he's actually a baker, and he's a distance runner, but he's allergic to flour. He says he can manage it if he gets enough sleep. He knows if he doesn't get his 8 hours of sleep, he's going to be sneezing in the bakery the next day. Well, it usually takes about 2 days, but he knows. So sleep is so important for that recovery. You work your butt off, you put the pain in, and you want to get the reward, you need to rest to get that reward. Some days you say, I'm just going to stay in bed rather than attempting a bad workout. And then same thing, lying down on the massage table, either get a massage done or just learn to do it yourself. You can get, that's why I brought the tennis ball. Okay, you can get these 3 for $1 at the dollar store. Just lie on the floor, watch TV. You'll find the spots. Okay, you just have to roll around on top of it and just work through those. Weight loss factors. So cheating the diet. Just do 5 sets a day of stop eating crap. Okay, that's enough. Just stop eating crap. Okay, 5 sets of that a day. You can the Runner's Handbook says that you can drop almost a minute per pound for the marathon. I'll agree with that. I lost weight over some years, and I think losing that weight also helped me gain some time. We talked about lifting your leg. So 1 ounce on 42,000 steps, which is a marathon, is 1.3 tons. Now that's not factoring in any centrifugal force because you're having to swing that ounce back and forth. So think about lighter shoes. So I have racing shoes and I have training shoes. I like shoes. Well, hey, Cinderella's proof, right? A new pair of shoes can change your life. So think about that, making sure you've got, lighter shoes might help. We're talking about shaving a few minutes here, okay? So people who want to get into Boston, it could be, 30 seconds to a minute could be a huge difference for you. Stealing some precious time on the race course. Find a flat or a net downhill course. Weather, dry, calm, cloudy, cool. 7 to 10 degrees is probably about perfect. Accompaniment. I'd like to have races where there's about 3,000 runners in it, because then there's always people in front and behind. I was at a race last summer and I didn't even know if it was on the course. Like, I could not see anybody for half a mile in front of me. I couldn't see anybody for half. Like, I'm out there going, I didn't see a flag or nothing. I'm just running. And finally, the road straightened out. I could see a guy way out there, kind of thing, knowing that I was still on the course. So I like having some people to run around. Close to sea level, the third lung effect. This Running Hall, one of the American marathoners, he says he just loves going down to sea level to run. He says it's like I have a third lung. He's just euphoric. He says he just loves it. Part of it's mental. He just thinks it's that good. So if it is that good, it's that good. So I'm going to Ottawa this year for my marathon. So it's about 400 feet of elevation. So the air will be thick for me. We talked about who's on your team. You got medical doctors, physiotherapists. We also have Tara here as well. Find somebody that runs. They know what you're going through for that mental aspect. Massage therapist, chiropractor. If you have a problem, feel free to go see a couple of different kind of people. And all of them, in fact, you go to 2 or 3 physiotherapists, they might give you some different things to do. They might have a different rationale of where your problem's coming from, because the body is pretty complex and nobody's figured it out. It wants to do its own thing. So Aaron can hook you up with a nutritionist if that's what you're looking for. Functional movement screen, I'm working on that. Like I said, Bruce and I are going to put something together probably in June. Yoga for runners, another great thing. Lorelai's doing that, isn't she? Yeah. So talk to Lorelai at the store. Guess who's your sponsor? That other person that lives at your house. Make sure that they're on your team. Cheerleaders, whoever your posse is, whoever you hang out with, and then the coach in sort of the general term, meaning somebody to provide feedback to you, right? So that when you're being stupid, they'll tell you you're being stupid. Like, why are you doing that? So somebody to talk to. Rest days. Says Ryan Hall. Oh, he's running past the Wellesley girls. I guess now you can actually send your name in, and they'll actually have a sign. They'll actually make a sign up for you. So there's about a quarter mile of college girls lined up there screaming at you. It's fantastic. So he says anybody can train like a madman, train like a madman, but to be able to rest and allow the hard training to come to fruition takes a real strong mental strength. Here's some courses that. So this was out of I think it was 2011. The best marathons to qualify for Boston. The green ones there dark greens are close to us, fairly close. The lighter green ones are in Canada. So you can see that Road to Hope. You were just there, weren't you, Miranda? Did you just do Road to Hope?
I did the first year runway.
Okay, sorry. But in Hamilton, that's got a quite high ratio of Boston qualifiers. The other one here, this, oops, back up. Oops, not too far. Laser button. That one there. A lot of people, the California International Marathon, it's in Sacramento. It's all downhill, and it's in wine country too. I'll have this link. This link is on it's going to be in this presentation. But Victoria is another great one if you want to do a fall marathon. Vancouver, it's not on this list. I think because they've recently changed it. They're probably going to get a lot more. Yeah, you going to Vancouver? Yeah. Great course. It's a net downhill. I think the full marathoners and half marathoners are completely separated, I believe, for almost the whole course. I think you run the seawall by yourself. Go ahead.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
After now getting used to training in higher elevation, is it to our benefit to do a course in that same type of elevation in order to go for that better time? Because when I first started training higher elevation, my time sucked. Because I thought I was doing great, and 6 months later I did the Calgary full. This was in 2009. I had the worst race of my whole life. I got so sick during the whole course. I was used to being at 800 feet below sea level, and I moved here. Now I'm feeling great at this type of sea level, and then when I went down to Orlando and ran, I still did good, but I didn't feel like it could, I was in my head like, oh, I'm getting closer to sea level, my time's going to rock.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. So now I just have in my idea, well, I train at this elevation, I'm going to race that at that elevation. So is there any truth to that, or am I just telling myself?
The theory is that you're going to have more oxygen. Now, it's not a significant amount more between, say, 3,000 feet down to 700, but Calgary's 500 feet higher than we are.
Yeah.
So it's not, there's less oxygen there, just, that's a fact. So unless the course is faster. Now, when you go to Orlando, you also have to deal possibly with heat and humidity. So that's it. I said cool and dry. But more your body has to cool itself. That's you're not going to have a great day. Sometimes you're going to go to a race like my example. I got to go to Boston 2012. We started at 25 degrees Celsius with a 7-mile-an-hour tailwind. So I'm running at about 7 miles an hour. So I'm running in my own stink, right? Like there's no air movement. And so halfway through, I go, I'm just going to enjoy the generosity of strangers. Because there was people, so all the water had been out there since 5 a.m. This is already 10:30 in the morning when the race starts for our crowd. And it's already 25 degrees, the sun is, there's not a cloud in the sky, it's about 60% humidity. So we were like zombies because people, this is what I said, just random people are out there with ice. So we're just, I just held ice and I was chewing ice the whole way. So I just wanted to survive it. So instead of getting a 3:09 time, which I was hoping